The emergency lights cast red shadows across the bridge of the stellar dawn as Commander Jake Morrison gripped his chair. Sparks flew from damaged control panels, and the acrid smell of burning circuits filled the air. Through the cracked viewport, he could see the dark shapes of Vextai warships retreating into the distance, their hulls glowing with alien energy. "Lisa, damage report," Jake called out, his voice steady, despite the chaos around them. Dr. Lisa Park looked up from her console, her face pale in the red light. "Main engines are offline. Life support is running on backup power. Communications array is completely destroyed." She paused, checking another readout. "Jake, we have maybe 3 days before the air runs out." Jake felt his stomach drop, but he kept his expression calm. 3 days. He had been in bad situations before, during his military service, but never anything like this. They were stranded in the neutral zone between two hostile alien empires, with no way to call for help. "What about the Cathari ships?" Jake asked, though he already knew the answer from the empty space around them. Lisa shook her head. "Gone. They jumped to hyperspace right after the attack ended." Jake walked to the viewport and stared out at the stars. Just 2 hours ago, he had been working alongside the Cathari crew, planning their next research mission. Science Officer Zaraneth had seemed friendly enough, even excited about the joint human-alien expedition. They were supposed to be allies, working together to explore the galaxy's mysteries. Then the Vextai had appeared without warning. 5 massive warships, their hulls covered in sharp angles and weapon ports. The attack had been swift and brutal, a stellar dawn built for research. Rather than combat, had taken heavy damage in the first volley. Jake had expected the Cathari ships to help defend them. Instead, he watched in shock as Zaraneth's voice came over the comm system one final time. "Humans, Jake and Lisa, your species is too dangerous to survive what is coming. The Vextai Empire grows stronger each day, and they will not tolerate primitives like you. We cannot risk our own people by association with your kind." "Wait," Jake had shouted into the comm. "We're supposed to be working together. You can't just leave us here." "You are aggressive and unpredictable," Zaraneth had replied, her voice cold. "Your people will bring war wherever they go. It is better this way." The Cathari ships had vanished into hyperspace, leaving the humans alone with their dying vessel. Now Jake turned back to Lisa, who was working frantically at her station. "Can we fix the engines?" "The main drive core is cracked," Lisa said, not looking up from her work. "Even if we had a full engineering crew and a starbase, it would take weeks to repair. With just the 2 of us and emergency tools, it's impossible." Jake nodded grimly. Lisa was one of the best engineers he knew, and if she said it was impossible, then it was. She had a gift for making broken things work again, but even she had limits. "What about the emergency beacon?" Jake asked. Lisa's fingers flew over her console. "The main communications array is scrap metal, but maybe I can jury-rig something from the internal comm system." She paused, looking at him with worried eyes. "Even if I can build a beacon, its range will be tiny, maybe a few light years at most." "Do it," Jake said. "We need every chance we can get." As Lisa began pulling apart control panels, Jake made his way to the ship's small observation deck. The Stellar Dawn was not a large vessel, designed for a crew of 12 researchers and scientists. Now it felt like a tomb. With only the 2 of them left alive, he activated a portable scanner and began studying the space around them. What he found made his blood run cold. The area was filled with debris fields, the remains of dozens of ships from different alien species. Some of the wrecks looked old, but others appeared recent. "Lisa, you need to see this," Jake called out. She joined him at the scanner, her face growing pale as she studied the readings. "These are all different ship types. Cathari Vextai, and at least 6 other species I can identify." "Look at the positions," Jake said, pointing to the display. "They're all in roughly the same area. This isn't a battle site." Lisa nodded slowly. "This is a dumping ground. The galactic powers bring their problems here and leave them to die." The realization hit them both at the same time. They had not been abandoned by accident or cowardice. This was deliberate. The Cathari had brought them here specifically to die, along with who knew how many others over the years. Why? Lisa whispered. We were helping them with their research, shared. Our technology? Jake felt anger building in his chest. Because they're afraid of us. Zaraneth said we were too aggressive, too unpredictable. They think we'll cause trouble for them with the Vexed Eye. So they decided to murder us instead, Lisa said, her voice shaking with rage. Jake put a hand on her shoulder. We're not dead yet. How long do you need to build that beacon? Lisa wiped her eyes and straightened up. Give me 4 hours. Strip every circuit I can find. Good, I'll work on extending our life support. We're going to survive this, Lisa. I don't care what those aliens think about humans being too stubborn to know when to quit. As they went back to work, neither of them noticed the small device hidden behind one of the damaged panels. Zaraneth had placed it there during the final hours before the attack, ensuring that even if the humans somehow survived the initial damage, they would not survive long enough to be rescued. The Cathari had been very thorough in their betrayal, but they had made one critical error in their calculations. They had never really understood what humans were capable of when their backs were against the wall. Jake crawled through the narrow maintenance shaft, his flashlight cutting through the darkness ahead. The ship groaned around him as damaged hull plates shifted under the stress. He had been working for 6 hours straight, pulling apart every non-essential system he could find. How's it going down there? Lisa's voice crackled through his comm unit. Found another power coupling, Jake replied, carefully disconnecting the device. This one's from the old observation deck lighting system. Every bit helps. Good. I'm making progress on the beacon, but we have a bigger problem. Jake felt his heart sink. What now? The air recycling system is damaged worse than I thought. We're not losing air to space, but the scrubbers that clean out carbon dioxide are failing. I give us maybe 2 days before we start having trouble breathing. Jake closed his eyes and took a deep breath of the stale air around him. 2 days instead of 3. The situation kept getting worse. Can you fix it? I'm trying, but I need parts I don't have. The main processor is fried, and the backup units are running at 30% efficiency. Jake made his way back to the main corridor, dragging a bag of salvaged components behind him. When he reached the bridge, he found Lisa surrounded by pieces of electronic equipment. She had torn apart half the ship's internal systems, creating a pile of circuits, power cells, and processing units. Any luck with the beacon? Jake asked. Lisa held up a device that looked like it had been built from spare parts, which it had. It's crude, but it should work. The problem is power. I can only run it for about 10 minutes before it drains our emergency reserves. 10 minutes isn't much. No, but it's better than nothing. The real question is when to use it. If we turn it on too early, we might waste our only shot. If we wait too long, we might not have the power left to broadcast. Jake nodded and sat down heavily in his chair. The past few hours had shown him just how desperate their situation really was. The Cathari had done more than just abandon them. Lisa had found evidence of deliberate sabotage throughout the ship's systems. Show me what you found, Jake said. Lisa pulled up a schematic on her portable display. Look at this. The backup life support controller has been modified. Someone installed a small device that's been slowly draining power from our reserves. How long has it been there? Based on the power drain patterns, I'd say about 2 weeks. Right around the time we started this joint mission with the Cathari. Jake felt anger burn in his chest. They planned this from the beginning. It gets worse, Lisa continued. I found similar devices in the engine control system and the communications array. They weren't just planning to abandon us. They wanted to make sure we couldn't save ourselves. Why go to all this trouble? Why not just refuse to work with us in the first place? Lisa was quiet for a moment, thinking. I think they needed something. From us first? Our research data, maybe? Or our technology? Once they got what they wanted, we became a liability. Jake stood up and walked to the viewport. The debris field stretched out before them, a graveyard of ships from dozens of different species. How many others do you think went through the end? Same thing? Probably all of them? Lisa said softly. Look at the scan data. Ships from species that were supposed to be allies of the Cathari, the Vexed Eye, and others. All left here to die. The galaxy's garbage dump for inconvenient people. That's exactly what it is. Jake turned back to Lisa. What's our status on life support? I've been working on that while you were gathering parts. The good news is that I managed to bypass most of the sabotage devices. The bad news is that the damage is already done. I've extended our time from 2 days to maybe 5 days, but that's the best I can do without major repairs. 5 days, Jake repeated. That's not much. No, but it's better than 2. And I'm not done yet. There might be more I can do once I finish with the beacon. Jake felt a spark of hope. This was why he had requested Lisa for this mission. She never gave up, never accepted defeat. Even when the situation looked impossible, she kept working, kept fighting. What do you need me to do? Help me install the beacon. I found a way to use the ship's hull as an antenna, but I need someone to go outside and make the connections. Jake felt his stomach tighten. A spacewalk in their current situation was dangerous. The ship's artificial gravity was failing, and they only had 2 emergency suits. If something went wrong, there would be no backup, no rescue. How long will I need to be out there? Maybe an hour. I'll guide you through the CUM system. Jake nodded. Let's do it. As they prepared for the spacewalk, Lisa made another discovery. Hidden in the ship's computer memory, she found files that had been uploaded by the Ketheri crew. The files contained detailed scans of Earth, military assessments of human technology, and strategic analysis of human expansion into space. Jake, look at this, Lisa said, her voice tight with anger. Jake read through the files, his expression growing, darker with each page. The Ketheri had not just been studying human technology, they had been preparing for war against humanity. They're afraid of us, Jake said finally. Not just afraid, terrified. According to these assessments, they think humans are the biggest threat to galactic stability since the Vexti Empire. And their solution is to make us disappear quietly. One ship at a time, one crew at a time. Make it look like accidents or alien attacks. Jake felt his resolve harden. The Ketheri thought they could murder humans and cover it up. They thought humans were just another weak species that would quietly disappear into their graveyard of ships. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The cold bit through Jake's emergency suit as he floated outside the stellar dawn, tethered to the hull by a single safety line. His breath fogged the inside of his helmet as he worked to connect the makeshift antenna array that Lisa had designed. The stars around him were beautiful and deadly, offering no warmth in the endless vacuum of space. How's it looking out there? Lisa's voice crackled through his helmet. Come. Almost done, Jake replied, his gloved hands struggling with the delicate connections. Just need to attach the final power coupling. Be careful with that one. Short it out, we lose the whole system. Jake took his time with the last connection, double-checking everything before giving Lisa the all-clear. When he climbed back through the airlock 20 minutes later, his suit was covered in frost and his hands were shaking from the cold. Beacon is ready, Lisa announced as Jake removed his helmet. But I found something else while you were outside. Something bad. Jake felt his heart sink. Every hour seemed to bring new problems. What now? Lisa pointed to her scanner display. Long-range sensors picked up movement at the edge of the system. Big movement. Jake looked at the screen and felt his blood turn cold. A massive fleet was approaching their position, at least 20. Ships moving in perfect formation. The sensor readings showed the distinctive energy signatures of Vexti warships. How long until they get here? Jake asked. At their current speed, maybe 6 hours? What do you think they want? Lisa pulled up more detailed scans. Look at their course. They're not heading for us specifically. They're doing a sweep of the entire debris field. Jake studied the formation. The Vexti ships were spread out in a search pattern, moving methodically through the graveyard of abandoned vessels. They're looking for survivors. And killing anyone they find, Lisa added grimly. I've been monitoring their communications. Every time they find a ship with life signs, they destroy it. Why would they do that? Think about it. Area is supposed to be empty. Just old wrecks and debris. If word got out that ships were being dumped here with living crews, it would cause problems for everyone involved. Jake understood. The Vexti were cleaning up loose ends, making sure no one survived to tell the truth about what really happened in this forgotten corner of space. They were executioners, finishing the job that species like the Cathari had started. We need to shut down everything, Jake said. Life support, emergency lighting, everything that might show up on their scans. If we do that, we'll freeze to death in a few hours. It's better than being blown apart in 6 hours. Lisa nodded and began shutting down the ship's systems one by one. The lights went out, plunging them into darkness. The gentle hum of the life support system fell silent. Within minutes, the temperature began to drop. Jake and Lisa huddled together in the ship's small emergency shelter, sharing body heat under a thermal blanket. They had maybe 4 hours of breathable air in the sealed compartment, assuming the Vexti fleet moved on quickly. "Tell me about your research," Jake said quietly, trying to keep both their minds off their desperate situation. "What research?" "The files I saw mentioned something about human adaptability. You were comparing humans to other species." Lisa was quiet for a moment. "It started as just curiosity. I wanted to understand why humans seem to do well in situations where other species failed. And what did you find?" "Most intelligent species in the galaxy evolved on worlds that were relatively stable. Steady climate, few natural disasters, predictable seasons. Their evolution favored cooperation and efficiency over individual survival." Jake listened as Lisa's voice grew stronger, warming to her subject despite the cold around them. "Humans are different," she continued. "Earth was a harsh world. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, disease. Our species survived by being adaptable, stubborn, and willing to take risks that other species would consider insane, like trying to fix a broken spaceship with spare parts." "Exactly. Most species would calculate the odds, realize the situation was hopeless, and accept death gracefully. Humans look at the same situation and ask what they can break to make something else work." Through the hole, they could hear the distant vibrations of the Vexti ships moving through the debris field. The alien vessels were methodical in their search, taking their time to scan each wreck thoroughly. "There," Lisa whispered, as a particularly strong vibration shook their hiding place. "They just destroyed something big." Jake checked his watch. They had been hidden for 3 hours, and the cold was becoming unbearable. His feet were numb, and Lisa was shivering constantly, despite the thermal blanket. "How much longer?" Lisa asked through chattering teeth. "Maybe another hour?" The sensor readings showed them moving past this section soon. But the Vexti were being more thorough than expected. Jake could hear their ships moving back and forth through the debris field, double-checking areas they had already searched. One ship passed close enough to their position that Jake could feel the vibration of its engines through the hull. "They're taking too long," Lisa whispered. "We're going to run out of air." Jake made a decision. "When they move on, we power up immediately, get the life support running, and start working on that beacon." "Jake, if they detect us powering up, they'll come back." "Then we better hope our distress signal reaches someone friendly before they do." Lisa nodded, her face pale in the dim light of their emergency lamp. "How do you stay so calm? Military training? And stubborn human genetics, I guess." "Promise me something," Lisa said. "If we don't make it out of this, promise me the truth about what happened here gets out somehow." "We're getting out of this," Jake said firmly. "Both of us. Because that's what humans do. We survive things that should kill us, and then we make sure it never happens to anyone else." The vibrations from the Vexti ships began to fade as the fleet moved to the far side of the debris field. Jake and Lisa waited another 30 minutes to be sure, then began the careful process of bringing their ship back to life, one system at a time. Jake's hand shook as he tried to reconnect the power cables to the life support system. The cold had gotten into his bones during their long hiding, and his fingers barely responded to his commands. Lisa lay curled up under the thermal blanket, her lips blue and her breathing shallow. "Come on," Jake muttered to himself as he worked. "Just a few more connections." The life support system hummed to life, and Jake felt warm air begin to flow through the vents. He helped Lisa sit up and wrapped the blanket around both of them as they waited for the ship to warm up. "Status report," Jake said. Once Lisa seemed more alert. Lisa checked her instruments with trembling hands. "We used up most of our emergency air reserves. Maybe 18 hours left, and that's if we're lucky." Jake nodded grimly. They had survived. The Vexti sweep, but they were running out of time fast. "What about the beacon? Ready to go?" "But Jake, if no one is listening, we're just wasting our last bit of power, and we better hope someone is out there." Lisa moved to her makeshift communication station and powered up the beacon. The device hummed to life, sending out a basic distress signal on multiple frequencies. She had programmed it to broadcast their location, their situation, and a simple message asking for help. "How long can we keep it running?" Jake asked. 10 minutes, maybe 12 if I push it. Then we're down to emergency power only." They sat in silence as the beacon transmitted their desperate plea into the void. Jake stared out the viewport at the endless stars, wondering if anyone would hear them. The galaxy was a big place, and they were in one of its forgotten corners. "Jake," Lisa said suddenly, her voice tight with excitement. "I'm picking up something on the sensors." Jake hurried to her station. "What is it? Engine signatures?" "3 ships, moving fast in our direction." Jake felt his heart leap, then sink just as quickly. "Vexti coming back?" Lisa shook her head. "No, these are different. The energy patterns don't match anything in our database." They watched the sensors as the 3 ships approached their position. The vessels moved with purpose, not the careful search pattern the Vexti had used. "These ships knew exactly where they were going." "Range?" Jake asked. 2 hours out, maybe less at their current speed. Jake made a decision. "Keep the beacon running. Use whatever power we have left." "Jake, if those are hostile ships, we're just giving them a target." "If they're hostile, we're dead anyway. If they're friendly, the beacon might be our only chance." Lisa nodded and adjusted the beacons. Output boosting the signal strength with their remaining power reserves. The ship's lights dimmed as energy flowed to the communication system. An hour passed. The unknown ships continued their approach, and Jake and Lisa waited with growing tension. The air in the ship was getting stale again, and Jake could feel the familiar tightness in his chest that meant their oxygen was running low. 30 minutes out, Lisa reported. "I'm trying to scan their holes, but the resolution isn't good enough to see details." "Any response to our distress signal?" "Nothing yet." "Wait." Lisa pressed her headphones closer to her ears, getting something very faint, but it's definitely a response. Jake leaned closer. "What are they saying?" Lisa adjusted her equipment, trying to clean up the signal. Static filled the small bridge, mixed with what sounded like a voice speaking in an unknown language. "I can't make it out," Lisa said. "The signal is too weak and distorted." They waited as the ships drew closer. Jake found himself holding his breath as the lead vessel finally came into visual range. What he saw made him blink in confusion. The ship looked nothing like the elegant curves of Kethari vessels or the angular menace of Vexti warships. It was built for function rather than beauty, with a hull that showed obvious signs of repair and modification. Weapon ports were visible along its sides, but they were clearly defensive rather than offensive. "That's not an alien ship," Jake said slowly. Lisa looked up from her instruments. "What do you mean?" "Look at the design, the proportions, the way the components are arranged. That's human engineering." Before Lisa could respond, their communication system crackled to life. The static cleared, and a voice came through speaking clear, unaccented English. "Unknown vessel. This is Captain Ben Carter of the human ship Iron Will. We received your distress signal. Please respond if you can hear this transmission." Jake and Lisa stared at each other in shock. Lisa was the first to recover, grabbing the microphone with shaking hands. "Iron Will, this is Dr. Lisa Park aboard the research vessel Stellar Dawn. We have 2 survivors in critical condition. Our life support is failing and we need immediate assistance." "Understood, Stellar Dawn. We have you on visual now. It looks like you've been through hell. Hold tight. We're coming alongside for emergency docking." Jake felt tears in his eyes as he watched the Iron Will maneuver closer to their damaged ship. The human vessel moved with the confidence of an experienced Crew, clearly designed for exactly this kind of rescue operation. How is this possible? Lisa whispered. There weren't supposed to be any human ships out here. I don't know, Jake replied. But I'm not complaining. Iron Will moved into position and extended a docking tube toward the stellar dawn. Jake could see figures in space suits working to establish the connection, their movements efficient and practiced. Stellar Dawn, this is Chief Engineer Amy Roberts. We're almost connected. Do you have anyone who needs immediate medical attention? Both of us are suffering from cold exposure and oxygen deprivation, Jake replied, but we can move under our own power. Good. We'll have medical personnel standing by. Just hang on a few more minutes. As the docking tube sealed with their airlock, Jake heard the most beautiful sound in the galaxy. The voices of other humans calling out instructions and preparing to bring them aboard the Iron Will had found them in the darkness, and Jake knew their long nightmare was finally coming to an end. Jake took his first breath of clean, warm air in days as he stepped through the docking tube into the Iron Will. The difference was immediate and overwhelming. As where the stellar dawn had been cold, dark, and dying, this ship hummed with life and purpose. Welcome aboard, said a woman in a blue jumpsuit. I'm Chief Engineer Amy Roberts. Let's get you to 2 Medical Bay right away. Jake and Lisa followed Amy through corridors that were clearly human in design but unlike any Earth ships Jake had ever seen. The walls were lined with storage compartments and repair equipment. Everything looked well used but carefully maintained. Many crew do you have? Lisa asked as they walked. 42 on the Iron Will, Amy replied. Captain Carter runs a tight ship, but we all know how to do each other's jobs. You have to when you're operating out here. They entered a medical bay that was larger than Jake had expected. 2 crew members in medical uniforms immediately began checking Jake and Lisa for injuries, while a third prepared treatment for cold, exposure, and oxygen deprivation. You're lucky we found you when we did, said the lead medic, a man who introduced himself as Dr. Sam Hughes. Another few hours and you would have been beyond help. How did you find us? Jake asked, as Sam checked his breathing. We monitor several frequencies for distress signals, Sam explained. Your beacon was weak, but Amy here built us some pretty good listening equipment. Captain Ben Carter entered the medical bay as Sam finished his examination. The captain was a tall man with gray hair and weathered features that spoke of years in space. His uniform was practical rather than decorative, and Jake noticed that he wore a sidearm. Feeling better? Carter asked, pulling up a chair beside their beds. Much better, thanks to you, Jake replied. Captain, I have to ask, how are there human ships out here? Last I knew, Earth was still working on its first interstellar missions. Carter smiled grimly. That's a long story. The short version is that humanity made it to the stars, but not the way we planned. Lisa sat up straighter. What do you mean? Earth sent out several colony ships about 15 years ago. Big, slow-generation ships heading for nearby star systems. Most of them made it to their destinations and started new colonies. Most of them, Jake asked. 3 ships had problems. Engine failures, navigation errors, that sort of thing. Instead of reaching their planned colonies, they ended up in contested space between alien empires. Carter stood and walked to a wall display showing a map of local space. The aliens weren't hostile exactly, but they weren't helpful either. They had their own problems to worry about. So the colonists did what humans do best. They adapted. How? Lisa asked. They built new ships from salvaged materials, started trading with anyone who would deal with them, learned alien languages and customs. Within 5 years, there were human settlements scattered across this entire region. Jake shook his head in amazement. And Earth doesn't know about this? Earth is 40 light years away, Carter replied. Communication takes decades each way. For all practical purposes, we're on our own out here. Amy Roberts joined the conversation, the captain's being modest. He was one of the original colonists, helped build the first human outpost in this region. Which brings us to why we're here, Carter continued. We've made it our business to help people who get abandoned or left behind. The galaxy is full of species that consider inconvenient individuals to be disposable. Like us, Lisa said quietly. Like you, we've rescued dozens of crews over the years. Humans, aliens, whoever needs help. We have a simple rule. Nobody gets left behind. Jake felt a mixture of relief and anger. So this happens regularly? Species just dump their problems out here. It's more often than you'd think, Carter said. The Ketheri are particularly bad about it. They consider themselves too civilized to execute prisoners or political dissidents, so they arrange for them. To have accidents in remote areas? What about the Vextai? They're the cleanup crew. Every few months, they sweep through areas like this and destroy any ships that might have survivors. Keeps things neat and tidy. Lisa clenched her fists. Those files we found showed that the Ketheri are planning something bigger. They're studying human technology and expansion patterns. Carter nodded. We know. We've been watching them for years. They're afraid that humans will upset the balance of power in this region. Are they right to be afraid? Jake asked. Carter was quiet for a moment. Maybe humans don't play by the same rules as the established powers. We don't abandon our allies when things get difficult. We don't consider other species to be expendable. That makes us dangerous to their way of thinking, Sam added. Amy pulled up a chair and joined the group. The thing is, we're not trying to conquer anyone. We just want to survive and help others survive. But apparently, that's revolutionary thinking out here. What happens now? Lisa asked. Now, we take you to Haven Station, Carter replied. It's our main base of operations. You can rest, recover, and decide what you want to do next. What are our options? You can try to get back to Earth, though that's a long journey. You can join one of our colonies and start a new life. Or you can do what most rescued people end up doing, which is... Carter smiled. Join us. We can always use good people, especially ones with your skills and experience. Jake looked at Lisa, then back at Carter. What exactly do you do out here? We rescue people who need rescuing. We fight pirates and slavers. We explore new worlds and make contact with species that the big powers ignore. And we do whatever needs. Doing it sounds dangerous. It is, Carter admitted. But it's also necessary. Someone has to stand up for the people who can't stand up for themselves. Jake felt something stirring in his chest. For the first time since the Ketheri had abandoned them, he felt hope for the future. Not just survival, but purpose. Tell us more about Haven Station, he said. 3 days later, Jake stood at the observation deck of Haven Station and stared in wonder at the massive human outpost. The station had been built inside a hollowed-out asteroid, with multiple levels carved into the rock. Docking bays lined the outer surface, where ships of various designs came and went in a constant stream of activity. Impressive, isn't it? Lisa said, joining him at the window. I had no idea humanity had built something like this, Jake replied. How many people live here? Admiral Kate Sullivan told me about 15,000, with another 50,000, spread across the colonies in this region. Jake watched as a group of human workers guided a damaged alien ship into one of the repair bays. All descendants of the lost colony ships? Most of them, plus rescued crews like us who decided to stay. A young woman in a station uniform approached them. Commander Morrison. Dr. Park. Admiral Sullivan is ready to see you now. They followed her through the station's busy corridors. Jake was amazed. By the diversity of the people they passed, humans worked alongside aliens from dozens of different species, all wearing the same blue uniforms of the Haven Station crew. Admiral Sullivan's office was located in the command. She was a stern-looking woman in her 50s, with short gray hair and intelligent eyes. Her desk was covered with reports and star charts. Please, sit down, Sullivan said, gesturing to chairs across from her desk. I've read Captain Carter's report about your rescue. The Ketheri sabotage was very thorough. Yes, ma'am, Jake replied. They planned our deaths from the beginning. Unfortunately, that's become their standard procedure for dealing with humans. We've documented at least 12 similar incidents over the past 3 years. Lisa leaned forward. What about those files we found? The military assessments of Earth and human expansion? Sullivan's expression grew dark. We've been tracking their intelligence gathering for some time. The Cathari leadership believes that humanity poses a long-term threat to galactic stability. Do we? Jake asked. That depends. On your definition of stability, Sullivan replied. The current galactic order is based on abandoning inconvenient problems and letting someone else clean them up. We represent a different approach. Sullivan stood and walked to a large display showing the local star systems. The Cathari Empire controls about 40 systems in this region. The Vexti controls 60. Both empires maintain their power through fear and careful management of their problems. She pointed to a cluster of systems marked in blue. We control 8 systems, all of them considered worthless by the major powers, but we've turned them into thriving communities. How? Lisa asked. By doing things differently. We don't abandon people when they become inconvenient. We don't solve problems by making them disappear. We face challenges head-on and find real solutions. Jake studied the map. The major powers must see that as a threat. They do. Our very existence proves that their way of doing things isn't the only way. Worse, other species are starting to notice. Sullivan pulled up another display showing recent refugee movements. Ships from dozens of different species have been heading toward human space. Word is spreading that we offer sanctuary to people that other powers have given up on. Is that sustainable? Jake asked. So far, yes. Every refugee we take in becomes a productive member of our society. Many of them bring skills and knowledge that we desperately need. Lisa looked at the refugee data with interest. You're building a coalition of the abandoned? Exactly. And that terrifies the established powers. Sullivan returned to her desk and picked up a datapad, which brings us to why I wanted to speak. With you both, we have a mission that requires your specific skills and experience. What kind of mission? Jake asked. Intelligence gathering. We need to know what the Cathari are planning next. Your research data and first-hand experience with their operations would be invaluable. You want us to spy on them? I want you to help us save lives. The Cathari are planning something big, and we need to know what it is before they act. Jake looked at Lisa, who nodded slightly. What would this mission involve? Infiltrating Cathari space, gathering intelligence on their military preparations, and identifying potential targets for their abandonment operations? Dangerous work, Lisa observed. It's very dangerous, Sullivan agreed, but necessary. We estimate that hundreds of people will die if we can't stop whatever they're planning. Jake thought about the cold, dying ship where the Cathari had left them to die. He thought about the graveyard of abandoned vessels they had seen. He thought about all the people who had not been lucky enough to be rescued. When do we start? He asked. Sullivan smiled. Captain Carter is preparing a ship for the mission. The Iron Will has been refitted with stealth technology and improved sensors. You'll be part of a 5-person team. What about equipment and support? Lisa asked. We'll have access to our best technology. Much of it is salvaged and modified alien equipment, but it's proven effective. Sullivan handed them each a datapad. These contain your mission briefings and technical specifications for your equipment. Take some time to review everything. Scrolled through the mission details, feeling a familiar excitement he had not experienced since his military days. This is real intelligence work. It's the most important kind, Sullivan replied. The kind that saves lives. As they prepared to leave Sullivan's office, the Admiral called them back. There's one more thing you should know. This mission is voluntary. If you decide you don't want to take the risk, there are other ways you can contribute to our cause. Jake and Lisa exchanged glances. They both knew what their answer would be. We'll do it, Jake said. The Cathari left us to die, and they're planning to do the same thing to others. Someone needs to stop them. Good, Sullivan said. The fleet. Captain Carter will brief you on the operational details tomorrow. As they walked back through the station's corridors, Jake felt a sense of purpose he had not experienced in years. The galaxy's powers thought they could dispose of inconvenient people without consequences. They were about to learn that humans had a different idea about justice. The abandoned had found each other, and they were not going to stay quiet anymore.